Hi.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Doing well, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for willing to do this.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's just in a way.
So I could just jump around then with your career.
Sure. I was there for all of it, so we can talk about any of it.
Well, is it accurate? Were you already acting when you were living in Taiwan and working for an amusement park or whatever that was?
Wow, you did your research. And that was actually one of my first professional jobs. My first film ever was my Disney Channel movie, Don't Look
Yep.
Under the Bed. And then I got the job in Taiwan, and everyone told me I was crazy to leave to go do it, but I was like, but I get to do stunt work every day and fall off of buildings and learn to speak Chinese and live in a foreign country while someone pays me. So I'm gonna go. And it was awesome. It was amazing.
Was that Disney Channel movie also how you got into SAG?
Yes, that was my first SAG job. It's how I became SAG eligible. It was all of a sudden I'm trying to remember. I think I did an indie film before that, but then called Fortune Cookie, and then Don't Look Under the Bed was my first union job, and then I moved to Taiwan. And when I got back from Taiwan, I finished college and moved to New York City, and it was all downhill from there.
I'm sure there has to be a pretty big story about doing stunts for the Spider 2 movie.
You did do your homeworks, but the Spider-Man stunts were like the best example of this is not how it works, except that it worked out for me. Like I saw signs in the neighborhood where I lived in New York that they were going to be filming Spider-Man in my neighborhood. So I called up the production office and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm just looking for the stunt coordinator. Where is he today?" And they're like, "Oh, he's down at City Hall." I was like, "Oh, okay, great. And what's the contact name again?" And they told me. So I went down to City Hall and I just hung out on set until the stunt team was like, "Oh, you do stunts? Do you want to work on our movie?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." And then I worked on Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2 was amazing.
Did you, because I know you didn't really keep pursuing stunt work after that, right?
The thing about stunt work was I every time I got hired, it was to do a job I'd never done before,
Okay.
but was willing to do and was game. And so I did it intermittently whenever it came up. And I the thing that's hard to remember is like the internet was brand new and still barely existed back then. And so it's like it's all changed so fast. And so it was just starting to transition to like new ways of finding crews. And it was still lots and lots of relationship based work. And the trick was a couple of times I would get called for things, but I was already working on something else, and so I couldn't go. And like the big flaw was when they called me for Spider-Man 3 and I was literally laying in a hospital bed with a broken leg from a motorcycle accident. So I couldn't
Oh,
come work on Spider-Man 3 because my leg was broken. And at that point I just kind of didn't get calls anymore from that crew because they're like, I mean, she was like busy. I was like, well, my leg was broken. I couldn't stand. Um, so it wasn't so much that I didn't pursue it, but part of it was I just didn't know how to look for work outside of the relationships that I had because I sort of stumbled into I had a lot of training and experience, but I stumbled into the work. And so the relationships that I had were from the work I had done, and I didn't really know how to build out new relationships from there. And my like on camera work was picking up and that was starting to take over. So I just kind of leaned into, at every point in my career, just kind of leaned into whatever work was coming and followed that along, which is how I sort of transitioned from on camera into voiceover and just kind of leaned into whatever is happening instead of trying to force something else. And so as a result, I've had a lot of beginnings of a lot of places and a lot of different kinds of work. But it's kept me interested and interesting. And like when I was doing Heroes, it was great because I since I had stunt training, I was able to do all of the stunt work for my own episodes instead of having to be pulled out. And so like everything that's on screen is me. And there were a couple different things like that where they were like, "Oh, you actually have training and experience in this, so we can just use you to do your own work, which is really fun. So it's nice to just sort of keep adding skills to your list of things that you can bring to the table and offer.
Mhm. Well, I was that's what I was going to ask next was there was something that happened that made you get more ready to pursue voiceover opposed to live action.
Um, I stumbled kind of backwards into voiceover when I told my on-camera manager that I really wanted to record books on tape because audiobooks were not a thing yet. I'm a big reader. I've always been a book lover, and my manager was like, I don't know anything about that, but I know somebody who does. And he introduced me to a voiceover agency who I did my audition for them in person, and they were like, "Oh, you you're actually good at this." But we don't do audiobooks because there's no money in that. So I immediately never, so I didn't get to do audiobooks for years, but I started doing commercial work. And for years, I was doing commercial work with that voiceover agency, and I learned a ton because the way that I kind of describe it to students now is I feel really, really lucky because when I was doing that voiceover work in the beginning, I was putting in my 10,000 hours of practice, right? Of learning about the marketplace and learning about auditions and reading when my ego and my sense of self was not hung up on whether or not I was booking a bunch because it was just this other thing that I was doing alongside of pursuing my real career, right? It was this other work I was doing that over time built and that I loved, and I met a lot of wonderful people. Um, and so by the time I realized this was something amazing that I wanted to take more seriously. I had put in years and years and years of practice when I wasn't getting hung up on whether or not, like what my booking percentage was and whether or not I got the job. And I feel really lucky for that because I think one of the things a new actor can do that sort of tanks their career and experience is getting caught up on whether or not people like you and like what you're doing. And so I was really lucky that I got to practice and I got to get experience in and I got to work with professionals at a time where for whatever reason I just wasn't worried about whether or not it was working out. And so as a result, every time it worked out, it just felt great. And I didn't take any of the times it didn't work personally. And so when I started taking it seriously, all of a sudden, I was able to build a lot of momentum very quickly because I'd put in all the legwork to make it build. And I moved over to Atlas Talent, which they were like, "Hey, we've got a great plan for how we want to work with you," and it exploded. Like my career just immediately took off because I'd put in all of that legwork with some really talented people who really poured a lot of love into my career, and then we had I had people with a plan who were like, "Hey, we're going to take you this direction." And I've never looked back since. And it's been, for me, one of the most satisfying parts of a very long career that has looked a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was your first kind of anime project, was it one of the Trails games?
Was it? I think it was either Persona 4 or Trails of Cold Steel. I think I did both of them with a company called PCB.
Yeah.
Val Aram directed me, and she's both a dear friend and like a total hero in the business. And I remember on both of those, she called me, and I just can't remember which one went first. She called me and she's like, "I think I have something perfect for you. Will you just come in and give this a shot?" And I didn't really know what I was getting. I had no idea how big those properties were. I didn't know what a cool world I was stumbling into. I just knew that I was working with people that I loved and had trusted and worked on other things. Um, Val's husband and partner, Keith Aram, had been the first director I worked with on Call of Duty, and he taught me so much about how to work in video games just by working on that first game together. And so I just trusted them implicitly. I was like, if you think that you've got something I can do, I believe you because you've never let me down. And they were great champions and they're great friends and wonderful people. And it was so fun to come in and go, what's this world? And learn about it in process. And now over time it's continued to build, and now I've done a few of the Trails world and some of the animated show and stuff, and it was just it's a blast. I had no idea how long it could last or how broad it would expand.
Do you think you probably have the most affinity with Claire, considering how long you've played her?
Yeah, I mean it's that bias, right? I was like that's my friend. Like she's my in, and getting to transition from like the good guy to the bad guy to the good guy, and like finding those the different windows as it moved. Plus I just like blue hair, so you know, that's it's bias and I like it.
Is there a default line that you have to like get into her headspace?
Oh gosh, there probably is, but you're asking me right now, and I should have looked it up. I have a whole folder of audio samples and lines, and usually right before I come back on something, especially because sometimes months or even like a year or two can pass in between some of those projects, I'll go back and dive back in and pull up a bunch of that. I'm also very grateful to people who've done YouTube compilations, because sometimes I'm like, I was like, what did we do last time? Oh yeah, that's what it all sounded like. And that's a blast is getting in there and also getting to see what resonated with people beyond just what resonated with me, and that's really fun.
Mhm.
But I
What do you
didn't
think?
remember to do that today.
That's okay. Uh, that's like generally speaking so far. What do you think is the case where you've had to alter your voice the most for something?
One of the more there have been two games I've worked on that I was so incredibly proud of my work because it sounded so wildly different from everything else I've ever done. And I have no idea what the games are because they never tell you what you're working on at the time. And one of them I know was an indie game. It was like a high budget indie game, and I had the best time working on it. And it was this very like super textured, like wet and slippery kind of like monster voice sound in an assassin. And I had the best time doing it, and I crafted this, and I was having such a good time. I have no idea what the game is. I wish I did. The art that I saw looked so cool. The work that we did was so cool, and no one ever told me the name of the game. So someday, if anyone hears me on something like that, please tell me because I want to know how it came out. But what's funny is the inverse of that is doing Alice on Genshin is so wildly different from the kind of work I usually get to do. I'm usually like deep and grounded, and getting to do Alice is like so deliciously unhinged and um not flighty, that's not the right word, but she's kind of all over the place because she doesn't restrain herself, and that's
Right.
something I don't usually get to do, and that's really fun.
Yeah, I was wondering with Genshin was that because I know some people when I've talked to people that are in Genshin that end up being playable characters, they like kind of have a feeling that when they get the audition that it's for Genshin, but some people don't have any idea that it's for Genshin.
Yeah, well, I have a really funny relationship to that game because I was on the game initially, and then before it ever came out, I was replaced, and I was bummed because it clearly was really fun, but I was like, oh, that's too bad. They decided to go a completely different way with the original character I was on. So when they came back to me, I knew what what the project was, but I knew I was doing something completely different from what they'd had me do the first time, and I was 100% replaced by somebody who was great in the original role that I had done, but it was so wildly different from what I'd done before and from what I'm generally known for that I was like, are you sure this is what we're doing? So I thought it was a one-off. The first like two or three times I thought it was just this like drop in. It was like, oh, it's like a little voice that's like offering I thought it was basically an NPC that was like offering a quest. And then they just kind of kept coming back over and over again. And then in the last like year or two, there was the like, maybe she'll be playable, maybe there will be something. And then this week I got a face. And I'd never had a face, and I was so excited. So at this point, I'm just waiting to be told what happens next because I'm just along for the ride, and it's a blast. It's really, really fun. I get like this much extra freedom, more than I've had on a lot of other characters to kind of, I'm not going to say rewrite things, but add my own flavor to stuff. And anytime that I can make a director just like laugh or cheer in the middle of a session. I know I've found that sweet spot for Alice, which has been really, really fun.
How could you relate to her at all?
I think the thing that's really fun about her is that like she always knows everything, but she's only revealing some of it. And I think that I'd like to believe that I live in that place sometimes, that feeling of like, oh, I know stuff, but I can't always tell you. And honestly, like living that NDA life is not unlike that, where you're like, I have all of this information that I can't share with you now, but someday you'll think it's really cool. So there's a little bit of that, I guess, that plays into it.
It is really fun because there's not really any other character in the game like her where she's so powerful, but her attitude is just like whatever. I'm bored.
I have to admit, like, I didn't fully comprehend how powerful she was because everything that I did was so just it. She's just so, the word I always think of with her, she's just so delicious. Like, it's just this like fun, tasty thing that I can come in and sink my teeth into for a little while that I honestly didn't fully appreciate how powerful she was because I was just having so much fun. And I think that's part of what magnifies the power that she has is that I think a lot of times when you have like a super powered character, they take their power so seriously. And to have a character like her that just like takes it for granted and lives in the joy of that power is part of what makes her so much fun to interact with. And it's definitely a huge part of what makes her fun to play.
Do you have many thoughts on her? At least like what all we know so far about her relationships with the rest of the witches or anything like that.
The best thing that I can say about the relationships between the witches, because again, like we get so little information as performers. Like I get the scene as it's written when it's written, and I get it usually cold on that day. What I can say about the witches is I know a bunch of those actresses,
Right.
and we have a relationship, and that is so much fun to weave into our relationships together because there's this kind of secret understanding between us as humans that gets layered on top of our relationships in game where it's almost like having a second secret that goes on top of the script, and that's a blast, like that feeling of I know something about you and I can bring that extra quality on top to this Hexen circle and like make sure that there's layers on layers. And that's really fun. To me, that's one of the cool things about sticking around in this business is over time you build relationships with so many performers and directors and coworkers that it can't help but add extra layers to your work because there's this underlying relationship and experience and in actor language, a lot of time we call it like the secrets that build out a moment. And over time, some of that just naturally builds in over and over because if I've got a scene with Misty Lee, like I just have this extra like tickle inside of me because I adore her and I just think she's the coolest person. And so I'm like, oh, I can't wait to offer you this and see what you give back to me because she's such a powerful woman and a performer that the character is just gonna give me that much more. And so I can't wait to give it to her too, for example.
Did Alice's human appearance match what you thought that she would look like?
I always wondered how much she would look like Klee, so it was fun to see that like the character pairing and match. I love her styling because it's kind of like everything else about her, where it like gestures at all these things that you know, but it's not fully like I love her hat so much. I love somebody called it the suggestion of a hat, and I was like, I'm keeping that forever. Like this idea of like obviously I'm a witch, and so clearly I'm going to give you this hint, but it's not going to be what you expect, and it's not going to be fully realized because I don't need all of the trappings. I can create my own magic out of it. I think that's a blast. I'm really excited about it.
There is one thing I've done with every Genshin interview. Is it's one of the other playable characters' lines. If I put it in chat, if you could read them as your character.
Oh, sure, that'd be fun. Oh, A map this wine tastes as good as I remember. But where are those who share the memories? Hmm.
Is there something that you like personally hope to see for her character?
I mean, I don't know how this will sound. As a mom, like I'm really excited to see how she interacts with. I'd love to see her and Klee in person, and
Hmm.
see what that vibe is. That feeling of like, I sent you off to go grow and become the best version of yourself you could be. Now, how are you? Like that feeling of like now what are we gonna do? Are we gonna get up to trouble together? Are they gonna push back? Um, I think that that would be really fun to see, and what that dynamic would look like if they kind of partnered up as a duo for a little while. That feeling of we've been gone for so long and I keep checking in, but what happens if we stick around together for a little while? I think that'd be a blast.
Hmm. I know obviously a lot of people are excited to see more interactions between her and Albedo.
Hmm. It's always fun when those details come up in a script because I'm like, oh, tell me what's happened in between the last time I saw you and now. Because the game is so big that to be frank, I have not been able to keep up with all of the many threads of it. And so it's always fun to kind of get the recap on what I might have missed in between. And those are the most fun recaps. I'm like, so where are we now? And what's happening? And where is it going to be by the time this comes out? That'll be a really fun one to see what happens next.
Was it a similar case? Were you familiar with Fire Emblem at all when that came up?
Totally new. So the thing that's wild is like um I am physically not coordinated. Like I am so bad at playing games. I love being in games. I love this world. I love the creativity. I love the writers. I love the stories. But I am literally physically bad at moving through these worlds. Like I don't know. I'm old. Like I like bump into walls. I fall off of ledges. I'm like in a room and I can't figure out how to get out the door. And so I love to dive in and see what is there, but often I just kind of have to sit back and let somebody else show me how it all works because I'm so bad at navigating the actual mechanics of a lot of the games. Um, and then I also have like I'm in that super high intensity. I have lots of little kids stage, so there's the question of do I have any minutes to myself to sit down and actually play anything has been significantly lessened for the last few years. So I do a lot of catching up at the beginning of sessions to find out what happened when I wasn't around.
Was that I would think more with Linoan that that was more of like playing a character opposed to being able to relate to her at anything unless you could relate to something about her.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just nice to be able to come in and try and serve the director's vision. Like they'll give me the story and they'll give me the intention. And I'm like, great, let me bring that to life. And I think that was definitely a case there of trying to fully serve the needs of the project, instead of necessarily like serving my own connection because that it can't always be perfect. Sometimes the best connection is to the people who are creating it and wanting to give them everything that they are looking for.
Was that Patrick directing you or Caitlin or somebody else?
I can't remember. I hate to say. It's I wish I had my I the one of the things I miss about doing sessions in person is you would actually get paper scripts and I would always make notes on my scripts of like who's the director, who's the engineer. And so I have all of these old sessions where I can look at it and I'm like, oh, this is exactly who was here today. And now doing most of it remotely is amazing. But a lot of times because I never get a paper script and everything is appropriately protected under like what's the word I'm looking for? Like watermarks and stuff where you can't print it out. So I don't have those places to keep those notes anymore. I should
I
probably
don't
just
know.
write it in a notebook, I guess. That would probably be wise. I should keep it. I'm like right now, I'm like, I'm gonna start keeping a notebook in the booth and I'm gonna like write down dates and sessions and directors. That'd be a wise choice. Why don't I
Hmm.
do that?
well, maybe you were told this, but she was a character that ever since the Fire Emblem mobile game started, that she was a character that people had been waiting to be in the game for like almost a decade.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know. See, this is good. Can you tell me more about it? I'd love to know.
because
That's so cool.
yeah, well, because her the source game, the specific Fire Emblem source game that she's part of was one of the ones that wasn't ever released in the U.S. So
Oh,
you're her first English voice.
no way.
Yeah.
That's such an honor. I had no idea. I feel bad I didn't know, but that's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice. I hope you guys like it. It's a blast.
Do you remember if you had any reactions to her design?
I don't know if I've seen it. Is that
Okay.
crazy? Sometimes, the thing that's wild is a lot of times I don't know the names of the proper. I was explaining this to somebody recently. At this point, I sign NDA contracts blindly because I just know I will never talk about anything until my name is in print someplace else. I'm like, I just don't ever talk about anything. And so often we don't even get the name of the game when we're working on it. And so
Mhm.
there are, like I said, there's a handful of games that I didn't even know that I was in because I only ever saw a code name, and then when it came out, it was under its real name. And so I didn't even know what the project was or that I was a part of it because everything that I did was was protected. And so sometimes I completely miss a game drop, which is terrible. I would love to promote the games. I love promoting the work that other people have done, but sometimes I'll completely miss a game drop because I didn't even know I was in it because nobody told me what the game was called.
Oh,
So developers, please let us know what games we're in because we want to help you out.
I don't know if you can remember anything, but I know a lot of Linoan's lines are about because she's her character is a priest, and she has like
Okay.
a lot of confliction about um like being in a like a warrior's path, but having the kind of job that she has.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. This is ringing a bell. Oh man, now I want to talk to you again in like a week when I can go look all that back up because it's funny, like I was raised in a very strictly religious context that also had a really military context. So those things actually do resonate with me a lot. But now I'm like, oh, what was that? And I wish that I could go back and find it. Now, this is what I'm going to spend the next hour after our conversation looking up and being like, oh, that's right. I remember all that. But I don't remember right now. Now I want to look it up.
She has a long pink hair, and two of the front are in braids, and she has like a symbol on her forehead with a green dress and a staff.
Oh, that's rad. I definitely have never seen that art. That sounds amazing. That's so cool. Is that weird? Is it really weird that I don't always know? And it's never because I don't want to know. It's just so often. Wait, now I'm looking it up. We're right here in real time. Oh, that's so cool. Look how beautiful that art is. I'm super into that hair. I love it. I'm like that kid that consumed all of the red-haired heroes growing up, and so everything in that family. I've got a redheaded kid, and I put her in braids the other day, and I was like, yes, that's it. This is really cool. Oh wow. I'm excited to look into. I feel so terrible because now I'm like, oh, I want to look into this. This looks amazing. I wish that I had known more about it when I was doing it. It's the hard thing, right? Like unless you're deep into this world, which I wish that I had the time to be, but children, they're very time consuming. Um I wish that I knew more about this, like the whole universe of this, because this is really cool looking.
Mhm.
This art is gorgeous.
All of the lines that you would have said are I don't know what you're on, but for her page, there's a quotes section.
Oh, cool. Oh my gosh. I feel like I'm like, oh, I failed. You're so well prepared today, and I'm totally blowing it. But this is oh wow. This is really cool. I so wish that I'd known all of this coming into it. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, this is exciting. This is fun. I'm excited to learn more about this world. I feel like I'm like betraying people by saying that, and I feel so badly about that. But I like this is the hard thing, right? Is we always do our best to pour everything we can into what we can see, but I I was not given this
Okay.
when we were working on the game, and I understand why not. There's only so much that you can take in, and they're protecting intellectual property and everything. But like, this is really cool. Like, I wish that I had all of this. And who knows, maybe if we do more now, I'll be able to bring extra layers to it by seeing. Thank you for letting me know. This is really cool.
A
Oh,
lot of the
wow.
fandom was surprised that because the voice that you use for her is more like deeper and resonant,
Yeah.
like it's different from what you would expect looking at
Well,
her.
and it's fun because I think that's the kind of interesting thing, right? Like if I looked at this art first, I probably would have chosen an ethereal voice for that priest. But I remember like the weight of all the things that sits on her heart. It has a lot more depth and resonance and the weight that she carries for the things that are important, and being able to sit in each of those places, it's kind of a great example of um where your lived experience and your outer shell sometimes are in conflict with each other and sometimes resonate with each other. And I kind of love that a little bit on accident we were able to bring that to somebody with this experience, because I was basing all of my performance on character notes and on traits and on the experiences they were offering instead of on the physicality and the visual. And that's really neat to be able to share those two things. I've I've played a number of sort of goddess type characters, and finding that it always feels like that eternal weight of sitting in the place where the wisdom sits heavy on your heart and you bring it forward with the resonance that needs to connect, and that space. It's very tangible to me. Like I can literally feel it vibrate on my body, and I love bringing that into characters, and being able to bring some level of that quality to a character like this is really neat. I love that. It's really neat.
Do you think that
Like
you
cheering.
do you think that you prefer to work on more dramatic projects opposed to comedic?
Every time I get to do comedy, it like lights up my soul because I just don't get the opportunity to do it as often. So I can't say which I would prefer. I know what I get to do the most. Um, but for example, like when I was doing Wonder Woman, I think one of the things I loved about it the most was they wrote it in a more comedic way. So it was a character with a lot of weight and depth of intention that had been meaningful to me my whole life, but then they wrote it with a lot more comedy in it, so it brought this freedom and this joy that I hadn't gotten to have. And so that to me is a blast. I think it's one of the things I love about Alice, is that I get to bring that comedic edge to these weighty stories, and like that sort of almost eternal knowledge. I love getting to do comedy. They don't ask me to do it as often. I It makes me wonder if I'm funny, but I love getting to do it when they let me.
What do you think the single darkest headspace you've had to go for voiceover is?
Oh gosh. I did this is going to sound crazy, but there was a trailer that I did for a game. What was the game called? It was sorry, my eye is tearing up and it won't stop now. Um it was a future place, like very grounded human game, and the trailer was a woman singing a lullaby to her baby that was dying in her arms. And I still remember how tangible that felt, and how real it felt, and like I could see and this was before I had children, but I could see that baby's face. And it's funny because that trailer for that game was a big part of pushing me into like the next phase of my work in games. And I sometimes wonder if keeping something that weighty, that brief, made it possible for me to explore bringing that kind of weight to what would come next. But the I still remember, gosh, have I ever told this story? Um, I remember when the trailer dropped, I was watching it while I was at work and I was a CrossFit coach at the time. And I was so excited. And it was like, it was so cool. And one of my CrossFit athletes came up behind me and was like, "Is that you? You know, I work a lot in games and that's great. If you ever have any questions, I'm happy to help." And I was like, "Okay, dude, like I'm good." So, in the future, if Travis Willingham offers you any career advice, you should take it.
Wow.
Can you believe that I was like, I'm like celebrating this win and I'm so glad, but like I'm good. D- Can you even believe it? I was like, that's like so, so beyond the humble approach of like, I've worked a bit in games. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to help. That is a true story. That really happened. Oh dear. He's lovely. He and Laura are the best. But I used to yell at him and tell him to pick up heavy things because the world is a strange place to live.
Did you have to go to any kind of headspace like that with Zero Escape with Mira?
Zero Escape was so interesting because it's so dark, but she doesn't take anything seriously.
Right.
And I think that's part of what makes the darkness so powerful. And so again, that was one that I worked with Val Aram, and we made a specific choice to try to increase the darkness by keeping the light as bright as possible. And so that kind of the laugh and the always acting as though everything was exactly how I wanted it to be. Um, I don't like to believe that there's like a tiny serial killer living inside of me, but I was like, there's definitely a piece of me that was like, oh, I can make this worse by making it seem less terrible, and that somehow makes the terrible more. But I remember we did that very deliberately to try to create that contrast so it would feel that much more stark while it was in game, and it's a fun challenge. It's a fun sort of tension to create, and we had a great time doing it, which feels like a terrible thing to say about those circumstances, but it's exciting to be able to create that kind of tension.
Yeah, I remember back when I talked to do you know who Rena Strober is?
Yes.
Yeah, because she's the female lead in that game, and I remember her telling me that that was like the only time in voiceover so far that she's ever had to take a break from recording something because it was so dark and stuff.
I totally get that. And it's funny because Mira comes in to make things worse by acting as if everything is fine for the most part. And so I didn't have to sit inside of the darkness in the same way. I had to try to figure out how to make it worse for her. And
Yeah.
that's a very different experience when you're on this side of the mic. It's really, yeah, it's interesting.
So I suppose like the more new content with Alice is probably the safest thing you can talk about that you're part of.
Um, I know that there is some, and that's all I can say. It's that hard thing. Like I for like a year, I was like, do I get a face? Do I get a face? And we were three-quarters of the way through our last session when it finally occurred to me that I was like, oh, this is the first time in an animatic that I've seen someone turn around. Like we were in it and almost done when it suddenly occurred to me. I was like, that's my face. Um, and now I know there is more that is coming, but I will find out what that is when they tell me. They've I will say that They are asking if I am available sometime in the next in the future. How long between recording and execution is never up to me, but there's more coming.
How do you think Alice would react to finding out about a fan base for herself?
Oh, well, of course you're fans. I haven't been writing these books for years for no one to read them. I'm glad you've been checking in with me because I've certainly been watching you.
Is there also something that you want to say to the fandom for her character?
I am excited to finally be able to meet everybody. It feels I'm like to not be a phonograph or a light post or a teacup and to get to actually interact. It's gonna be we're gonna have so much fun. I'm gonna lay so many little minefields. We're gonna have a blast playing together.
My final question is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
I think I want my legacy to be finding freedom and joy in the work that lights you up. And that can look so many different ways for different people. For me, some of that has been deconstructing old stories. For some of that, it's been um, finding space in characters that are fully expressed and not censoring themselves at all. And some of it is being able to fully embrace that the characters that I play don't have to be, they don't have to look like me, they don't have to feel like me, they don't have to have my story because I have the freedom to truly create something alive right now. And I think it's taken my whole career to give myself that permission to say that it's okay to craft and create something and to believe that my individual creativity is worthy and is enough. And I hope that that feels true across the breadth of my work and across anybody that I share it with, that it gives other people the opportunity to say, oh, I'm enough. And not only am I enough, but maybe my too much is the best part of me. And I can let that out too, because it's in all of those spaces that I discover I have the most freedom and the most fun. And so I hope for that to be a space where people can find the joy in the parts of themselves that other people said maybe were too much.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Me too. Thank you. So I learned something today and I'm so excited about that. I'm like I'm overwhelmed. I'm so thrilled.
Yeah. I'll be sure to send this to you once I have it up too.
That'd be amazing. Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a good rest of your day then.
You too.
Bye.
Bye, Chris.